The Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
For the very first time in history, we have the Sports Hit List on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. I am your host, Carl Coulanges, and I'd like to thank Errol Marks and his team for giving us the opportunity to broadcast our show each and every Wednesday. I am also the co-founder and executive producer for the Sports Hit List, and one thing I can tell you is this. About our show, you will get passionate fans, you will get funny fans, you will get fans that you will disagree with and even agree with, but we will do the best that we can each and every Wednesday to provide you with nothing but great sports content. I'd like to throw a quick shout out to my entire Sports Hit List family, my entire Sports Hit List team. Without you guys helping me put this show together, without you guys helping me create segments and doing what you do over the last 12 years, the show does not exist. I could not do it alone. So thank you. I truly appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. And again, there are not enough words that can describe how grateful I am for helping me get through this journey. So, as I said before, every Wednesday we will have a little bit of different sports segments just to show you guys what we've talked about throughout the week. You may get some NFL, you may get some NBA, you may get some NHL, you may get some MLB, you may get some MMA, you may get some boxing, you may get some pro wrestling. We cover it all here. So to start off the show, we recently developed this series called the Mount Rushmore of the NFL. Each and every week for the next 8 weeks, we will break down each position of the NFL and select our top 4 players in that position. The first episode was defensive back, so let's go to it.
Panel, we're introducing a new series to the Sports Hit List by the fans and for the fans. We wanted to take a look at the NFL and look at every position. So shout out to my football team for coming up with this segment where we're 8 episodes. We're going to break down the Mount Rushmore for each position. Today we have the defensive back position. Let me introduce my panel. The reigning defending MVP and soon-to-be father of the second child, Paul Lawson, is in the building. Paul, how you doing, bro? Congratulations to you and the wife for expecting number 2.
Thanks a lot. Obviously, lots of love for the brand. And I just want to use this platform to say, everybody be safe out there with the George Floyd protest. There's a lot going on in the world. So everybody be safe, use your sanity. And a special shout out to our officers that are a part of the Sports Hit List. I know a few of them. We got Jose and we got Marcus out in D.C. If there's anybody else I'm missing, you guys be safe and we support you guys.
Thank you for that, man. We got the new homeowner and Rick in the building. Rick, we have wonderful news. We got a father of 2 on the way. We got a homeowner. We leveling up. Congratulations, Rick. Rick, welcome to the panel, bro.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it, man. It feels good, man. It's a beautiful feeling, man. It feels good once everything is all set up. Hopefully by the next go-around, the next position I'm a part of, y'all will get a little sneak peek of the
Listen,
man.
I just tell you, man, have a hitless room for when we come down to Florida. Listen, that's all I'm saying, man. We'll hang out.
It's going to be dope.
Listen, we got Travis, who's now flipping to Patrick Mahomes' argument.
Come on, man.
Travis
don't do that, man.
Yeah, I got to call you out. I'm sorry, brother.
Don't do that, man.
I love you. I love you, but I got to keep it 100.
I was riding with the guy on that 2018 campaign, man. I was fighting for him for 2 years out here, man. But after yesterday, man, I can't rock with Breeze no more. Even the group, y'all turned me into a Breeze fan because I had to fight so hard for him. I'm a Panthers fan, so by nature, I didn't like him.
Yeah,
I had to fight so hard for him that, but
I don't want to change topics. I don't know what was worse, yesterday from Drew Brees or the PR statement he released this morning.
Listen, that's another vlog for another day, man. We could get into that.
How about Jake Fromm? That's just standard SOP nowadays. You say something crazy,
so let me get into Andrew. Andrew, welcome to the panel. Thank you for filling in for us. I know Greg was supposed to be here, but thank you for coming in last minute. We appreciate it. Broncos all day, right?
All day. I'm from Brooklyn, born and raised, but you can see where my heart is.
All right. So let me explain the rules to the fans and see how we're going to do this. Each member on this panel is going to get 4 picks for their Mount Rushmore for defensive back. And then as a group, everyone will pick one person to make the ultimate hit list Mount Rushmore. Let's go to the homeowner first down in Florida. Rick, who are your top 4 for defensive back?
All right, so we're going all 4. We're doing one by one.
No, all 4. Tell me who your 4 are right now.
Right. First up, you already know, man. I've had this little conversation with some heads over the course of the past couple of weeks. I wanted this kind of like what kind of brought things out. I was inspired today by my man Mike Miller to kick things off with some antics. My first and number 1 choice on my defensive back Mount Rushmore is going to be my personal GOAT. As far as I'm concerned, the absolute greatest defensive player to ever play football. Lawrence Taylor's close. My man, primetime Deion Sanders. Absolutely. That's my guy. I'm going to get the jersey on. And I went throwback number 2 Florida State, you know, because I'm a Dolphin fan, so you ain't going to catch me in no Cowboys, Falcons, or 49ers gear, you know.
All right, cool. Okay, who's your number 2?
All right, so number 2, we're going with Ronnie Lott. Ronnie Lott, for me, I think is, without a doubt, probably among the top safeties, natural safeties of all time. So that's my second guy for sure.
Okay. 3?
Number 3, we're going to go with Rod Woodson. So I know a lot of the debate is always between Rod Woodson and Deion Sanders most of the time, generally, as far as it comes to the GOAT for cornerbacks. But for me, he's a little bit behind Mr. Primetime.
And last one.
Definitely a little tough. I feel like the first 3 were a little bit of a gimme. I went back and forth on it a little bit, and I ended up going with Mr. Ed Reed as my 4th guy. Again, I think one of the top safeties of all time, especially what he was able to do during that era to kind of, you know, carry those Baltimore teams.
All right, so we got Deion Sanders, Rodney Locke, Rod Woodson, and Ed Reed, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, Travis, who's your pick for your top Mount Rushmore?
All right. We're gonna start off with the number.
And
1.
remember, you're just listing them. You see how Rick kept it nice, short, and sweet? All right, let's try to keep it under those rules.
Man, you already know who you're dealing with here, man. All right?
Go ahead.
Right now, talking, you're cutting into my time.
Go ahead.
All right, we're gonna start off with Ronnie Lott, man. That's easy right there, number 1, man. The man played cornerback and safety. My man cut off a finger to play football. Like, it's over at that. You cut off a finger.
Okay.
Number 1, all time. Next, we're going to go Deion Sanders at number 2 right there. That's simple. He's prime time, you know what I mean? He was one of the, like he said, you look good, you play good, you feel good, they pay good. You know what I'm saying? That's how it was, my man Deion. Number 3, I'm going to go Rod Woodson, man. Rod Woodson, he was Deion before Deion out there, man. He was out there in the cornerback position. He was not only a Pro Bowl and All-Pro at the cornerback position, but also transitioned to safety later in his career. And then that 4th spot, man. That 4th spot was hard, man. It came down between Ed Reed, Charles Woodson, Dick Knight, Train Lane, and Darron Green. But at the end of the day, I had to go Charles Woodson on it. I see how people go Ed Reed, but Charles Woodson got over 400 more tackles. He has 1 more interception, just as many TD returns. And he's the only player to ever have 60 interceptions and 20 sacks in the NFL.
Okay, so we got Rodney Locke, Deion Sanders, Rod Woodson, and Charles Woodson. That's your 4. Yep. MVP?
So first of all, I want to start off by saying, Travis, stick to the script. He asked you to list the 4 names. You list the 4 names. We didn't ask for metrics, all right?
Listen, this is me here. This is what I do. We come in with the metrics. I got to explain things, all right? Right, throw a little on there, you know.
Got to get praise. So just notice the name. The name is Paul the Great. So here's what I'm starting off. I mean, obviously, my number 1 is prime time, baby. I mean, when you just think about the impact on the game, the swag, you name it, the ability to score the football on all 3 sides of the ball is why you got to go prime time.
Okay.
And don't ever disrespect Deion Sanders and say Rod Woodson was prime time before prime time. There was never a prime time. There's only ever been one prime time.
I'm talking about a skill set. I'm talking about playing the game. I'm not talking about the antics. I'm not talking about. I'm not talking about the prime time. I'm just talking about playing football. I'm talking about just playing
Travis,
football.
you're eating his time, man. Let him get his time, bro.
So I'll speed this up for Trav's sake. You know, number 2, man, I disagree with you guys. While I think Ronnie Lott has some historical numbers, my number 2 is Charles Woodson, another guy who dominated the cornerback position and the safety position at the collegiate level, at the national level in the NFL, Super Bowl champion, physical game changer. I still think the Tuck rule, he was robbed. But hey, what do I know? So Chuck is my number 2. Number 3, Ed Reed. When you think about the ability to do what Ed Reed was able to accomplish in such a small sample size at the safety position, I think Ed Reed is the greatest safety to ever touch an NFL field. And coming out of the U, crazy. Shout out to Florida. And my number 4 is, man, the 4th spot was always a challenge. It was a toss-up for me between Champ Bailey and Ty Law. I went Ty Law, and I'll tell you why. Winning matters, and Ty Law is the reason why Bill Belichick was able to scheme the way he was able to scheme. He literally shut down an entire third of a football field for years against some of the greatest competition, the Marvin Harrisons, the Reggie Waynes, and so on and so forth. And even at the later part of his years, I think he had 10 picks at 40 for the Jets. So Ty Law is my number 4.
All right, so we got
we let that man
Sanders.
keep talking. He put Ty Law on the list. I can't deal with people right
Sanders,
now.
Woodson, Reed, and Ty Law. Andrew, who are your top 4 here?
This is based off of who I got to watch growing up. So number 1, I'm going to start with Ed Reed, because what him and Ray Lewis did co-piloting that Baltimore Ravens defense over that 10-year course or more was unbelievable. Like, you did not want to go into Baltimore. You wanted them to come to you. Second, I'm surprised I haven't heard this name yet, and I know my friends and family in Philly are going to love this. You got Weapon X and Brian Dawkins. Not only if he didn't make the play, he knew how to rile up his teammates. He knew how to get the crowd into the game. Number 3, it's got to be the hair, Troy Polamalu. Troy Polamalu was the poison for Peyton Manning and my boy Jake Plummer, and in that 05 run. And that Steelers defense was like, can't you to play against, because you did not want that hair near where you were going to throw. And number 4, I guess I'm being a little biased here. I'm going to say Champ Bailey. And you brought up Ty Law, Paul, but Champ Bailey made the Bill Belichick-Tom Brady combo human. It was Champ Bailey on January 13th, 2006, that picked off Tom Brady and ran it all the way back and gave that dynasty their first playoff loss. And not only that is the Broncos kind of stumbled a little bit after that, but Champ Bailey stayed with the ship. And it breaks my heart he wasn't part of the 2015 Super Bowl run, but at least he got to the Super Bowl with Peyton Manning and company in New York.
All right, so we have Reed, Dawkins, Palmau, and Bailey. So is it safe to say, so now we have to form the ultimate hit list?
Time out. Andrew, we're going to give you a pass, because at least you got an explanation. You said DBs that you've seen play. But, Paul, you going to sit here and try and tell me that you put Ty Law on the list of Mount Rushmore.
Absolutely.
Like, you skipped over Ronnie. Did you put Ronnie Lott on your list?
Nope.
You ain't put Ronnie Lott on your list. You ain't put Dick Night Train Lane. You know that man still holds the single season interception record as a rookie? It's been over 50 years on that. You let that go. You let Darryl Green go. You're going to sit here and tell me Ty Law. Go ahead. You got the floor. I need you to explain this.
Darryl Green was a perennial loser on the Washington Redskins his whole career. So you could be out there playing cornerback, being the fastest guy on the field. Excuse my French, the shit means nothing, all right? He wasn't winning games.
He's one of the leaders in interceptions.
Okay, gentlemen, listen, I would love to sit here and watch you guys go at it.
Let me get this shot in there real quick.
Yo, Rick, look.
I need to know.
Won games. He won football games.
Is Rondo even in the Hall of Fame?
Absolutely.
He is?
2019.
Okay. I got to make sure.
Okay, listen. All right. So, this is where the debate begins. Somebody seems to have the same kind of person on their list, right? So, is it safe to say, can I put Deion Sanders ultimately on the ultimate hit list? That's fair to put.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So, Deion Sanders goes on for sure. Okay. Now, who would we put second on our ultimate list? Again, everyone needs to see that.
Nah.
Ronnie Lott.
half the panel don't got Ronnie Lott on the list.
Ronnie Lott.
Okay, so
cut a finger off to
listen.
football, okay?
Listen. Is it safe to put Ed Reed on the list?
Absolutely.
No. Oh, whoa. That's a debatable one. We're gonna leave him to the end.
Oh my goodness.
Now.
Okay.
Come on now. Ronnie Lott. All right. Based on Paul's criteria, Ronnie Lott. Not only did he win, but he's got the tackles, he's got interceptions, and he has the sacks. He's on the NFL all-time 100 team. All right,
listen, he's on Rick's list though. So, like I said, if I wanted to give everybody a pick, everyone would want to make a pick. But now I want to make it interesting. We have to decide collectively as a group who makes the ultimate list.
Would I be okay with Ronnie Lott being the fourth head in the Mount Rushmore? Sure, why not? But don't give me this baloney. Don't give me this baloney.
It doesn't matter of the ranking. Okay, so are we going to put Locke on here? Yes or no?
Yes. Sure. Ronnie Lott.
Andrew, are you in favor of Locke?
Yes.
It's Locke, first of all, Carl. Locke. Get that man's name right.
Sorry. Okay.
No, he's talking to a Bronco fan, so he wants me to say Locke.
You want Drew Locke.
Okay. Okay, let's see here. We have Rod Woodson. Is it safe to put him on the ultimate list?
Yes, sir.
I'm going with the other Woodson, but that's just me.
You're going with the other we have to make a collective vote. Rick, are you okay with that?
I'm gonna put Rod Woodson on there. I'm gonna go with Rod.
I have to clarify. I have to clarify for Manny. I thought about Charles Woodson. Don't think I snuffed him because of the orange.
Okay, so which Woodson are we putting on? I know we're putting a Woodson, but which one?
I'll vote Rod.
So
when you think about, could I just say one thing? When you think about Mount Rushmore, you got to think about impact on the game, dominance during the game, and what they did at both levels. We're talking about the Heisman winner, one of the very few pioneers at the University of Michigan. He won the Heisman playing two positions.
Talking about NFL. You can't win the Heisman in the NFL.
Went into the NFL. And
when the last time they awarded the Heisman in the NFL?
Listen, Rick, jump in here, man. You've been kind of quiet since you talked in the first segment, bro. Listen,
got 1,000 tackles, bro, at the corner.
Can you guys let Rick say a word?
Rod Woodson got 1,100 tackles.
Can you let Rick say a word? I'm trying to get over here, man.
But here's the thing. Between the Woodsons, I didn't have Charles on my list. I did go with Rod. But I'll be completely honest. If I personally had to pick between the two Woodsons, I would probably lean Charles.
Okay, so he's saying Charles.
I feel like this is generational bias, right? I feel like because we ain't see Rod like that.
Okay, so wait. Okay. So Rick says Charles, right?
I would lean Charles, but here's the thing. I in my opinion, I think Ed Reed should definitely be on there. So if I got to pick between either one of the Woodsons and Ed Reed, it's going to be Ed Reed, and then we'll worry about it after.
Okay, so fine. Okay, so who picked Lott? So wait, Travis, you picked Lott, right? You did. He did. So that's his pick. Everyone kind of picked Deion. So, Rick, you kind of got the Deion Sanders pick because you got the jersey on. Hold on 1 second. He got the Deion Sanders pick. You got the Lott pick. If I'm being interest of fairness. So the next two are basically up to the MVP and Andrew. If we're going fairness right now, right? That's how we wanted to do it.
Okay, let me just start 1 point with the Woodsons. If you're going to pick Rod Woodson, he made All-Pro at corner and safety. Charles didn't make it at both.
Okay, so MVP, you get the third. So who are you picking out of the Woodsons?
Charles Woodson. There it is. See, that's how we have to figure it out.
I can't be mad at it. He's on my list. I can't be mad at it.
And he should be on your list. You're
and the final pick.
Put Tyler on your list. Stop it.
And the final pick goes to Andrew. Andrew, the final pick for the ultimate Mount Rushmore goes to you.
So I'll go with Charles Woodson.
No, they already have Charles Woodson. You get the last pick. Wow. Yeah, you get the last pick now.
I get to put number 4 on.
Yeah.
We put the pressure on the new guy?
Yeah.
Going Champ Bailey. You know he's going Bailey.
You get the last pick. You get the last pick.
Champ Bailey.
You gonna say Champ Bailey?
No, Ed Reed. Oh, no.
Yeah,
that's it. That's the interest. Okay.
This is a disgrace.
We left Ed Reed off.
Wait, we don't want Ed Reed?
No, he gets the last pick.
Already.
Yeah.
I thought Ed Reed was on already.
Yeah, Drew, I think you need to change your pick, bro.
Yeah, I gotta own up on that. We'll swap Champ Bailey for Ed Reed.
Okay.
I thought Ed Reed was on already. I'm sorry, guys.
Okay. All right, so there it
I
is.
can be satisfied with that.
I'm surprised you didn't stick with your pick, Andrew. You should have stuck with your pick. That's what I love,
Yeah,
man.
but you know what?
Controversy. You should have stuck with your pick.
I'm not biased.
We like Andrew. He's invited more on.
Come on, man. Stand your ground. The group's going to be mad at you. They're going to be mad at you for not sticking with your pick. You know that, right?
Listen. I ain't going to front. I almost threw Patrick Surtain out there just to rep for the Dolphins. So.
I got it. When it comes to the NFL, I try to keep it as fair as possible.
Paul put out Ty Law, so anything goes, I guess. You know what I mean?
The fact that I can mention Champ Bailey's name in here is enough for me as a Bronco fan. So
okay, so to finally wrap it up, the ultimate hit list Mount Rushmore, we have Deion Sanders, Rodney Lott, Charles Woodson, and Ed Reed. That's what we've settled upon, right? That's our Mount Rushmore. That's fair, right? Everyone's happy?
It's acceptable. It's acceptable.
It's acceptable. You made the picks. How is it not acceptable?
I'm just saying, Rob Woodson, man, I'm just telling.
So swipe one of your picks. So swipe one of your picks then.
All pro at both levels. I'm just saying.
Listen,
at both positions.
If you really feel that passionate, then take out Lott and put him in.
Nah, because nobody else gonna come from Ronnie Lott. I can't leave off the best DB to ever play the game. Come on now, we can't do that.
All right. Final thoughts on this panel, guys. Final thoughts here on this discussion.
Paul put Ty Law on the list. I can't deal with him no more.
MVP, what do you think?
Again, this is a classic
case. And he think he going back to back.
So this is a classic case of Travis the Cookie Man with bad takes. I mean, you think you're going to pull up Google in the middle of a debate, I'm supposed to be satisfied. Winning matters, bro. Winning
Rick,
matters.
you kind of led off the way with Sanders over here. Any final thoughts on your man Sanders?
Hey, first and foremost, again, Deion Primetime Sanders is the GOAT of all GOATs as far as I'm concerned. He's on my ultimate Mount Rushmore of all sports. So we'll get that out of the way. One thing I will say, I think I'm glad we led off with DBs as the first episode. I feel like as we go on through the series, we'll have a bit more diversity. I truly feel like the defensive back position is probably one of the positions where you'll get, those 3-4 guys that you hear over and over again. I think we'll get a lot of change as we go throughout the series.
Andrew, final thoughts?
Ricky took the words right out of my mouth. This was a great episode. I'm glad we got to mention all these names. Ty Law was a curveball.
I throw curveball, baby.
I'm surprised nobody honorably mentioned Darrelle Revis.
They told me that he shouldn't be mentioned, so I know I'm surprised. Someone told me don't mention him at all, but
Well, if you're the defense and you're for a team like the Jets, not to throw shade at the Jets, and you get by Tom Brady in the division round, you got to take advantage of that. And it's just a shame the Jets never did that. But this was a great discussion as far as defensive backs.
Well, thank you, gentlemen, for joining me here on this panel for episode 1 of the Mount Rushmore of the NFL. Episode 2 will feature the defensive lineman position. So this one definitely got spicy. I'm intrigued to see what episode 2 brings in for the rest of the series. I know you guys have picked your episode, so we'll see you later down the line, if not for episode 2, but maybe 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8. All right. So thank you guys. You guys stay safe, especially during these times. And I love you guys. Take care. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Jeff Alexis, personal trainer. Just want to say, hopefully everybody's staying safe in these times of quarantine and protest. Please be safe out there. Tread carefully. You know why. I wanted to do a video today talking about weight loss, or for that matter, weight gain. We all know about the science of caloric intake and calorie burning and watching what you eat. But there are 4 principles that I believe are necessary for you to either lose weight or to gain weight. Number 1, motivation. What is your motivation? Are you doing it for short-term reasons? Of course, beach season. Well, there's probably not going to be a beach season in the New York tri-state area this year, but is it for beach season? Are you doing it because you're getting ready for some type of athletic competition, whether it be like a spring or a summer league that you play in, and you just want to either lose or gain weight so that you can perform optimally? Are you doing it because you want to, of course, not this year, but people are getting married and they want to fit into their tux, they want to fit into their dress. So a lot of it could be vanity driven, things along those lines. Do you have long-term goals? I just had a baby, or I'm going to have a baby, and I need to be around. I'm going to have a child, and I need to be around for that little person in my life. Did you go to the doctor and the doctor said your cholesterol's high and you have blockages and you have a lot of health things going on, and losing weight, or for that matter gaining weight, would be optimal for you? That is a long-term goal. So number 1, motivation. Number 2, sacrifice. A lot of people out here think that they can just work out, go to the gym, and basically eat whatever that they want to. You can't. So when I say sacrifice, what I'm really talking about is, what is your plan? And in part of that plan is you have to make the necessary changes in your life, because dieting is one thing. Losing or gaining weight is a lifestyle change, and you have to make the necessary changes in order to achieve whatever goals you're trying to accomplish. If you're somebody who's trying to gain weight and you only have 3 meals a day, you're not going to gain the amount of weight that you want. You're going to need to take in more meals. You're going to need to take in more calories. If you're trying to lose weight, you got to do less, obviously. But you want to do it in an optimal way. You want to do it in an efficient way that is safe for you and that you will get the best, longest lasting results. So number 2, sacrifice. Have a plan for that. Number 3, accountability. A lot of us have egos. Goes up and down depending upon who the individual is. What you want to make sure of above anything, beyond the 2 that I just talked about, is hold yourself accountable, or have somebody there who's going to hold you accountable. A lot of people like to talk. A lot of people like to sit there and say they're going to do a million things, and then they just wait till I'll get to it another time. No. You either are accountable to yourself, or you have somebody who's there kicking you behind saying, these are the things you need to do in order to achieve your goal. All right? You've got to make those sacrifices. You've got to get that extra meal in if you want to pack on lean muscle. You've got to, put down those Twinkies or whatever your particular vice is. You got to be able to drink less. Alcohol. We all know, we're during these quarantine times and they can't really go anywhere. But, a lot of people like to go to happy hour. And a lot of those happy hour drinks aren't, top shelf alcohol where you just need one. People are guzzling them down. Who are you going to have with you to hold you accountable so that you are going to achieve your goals? And the final piece to that is progress. Progress, there's nothing wrong with monitoring. A lot of people check their weight every single day. Maybe you check your weight once a week to see how many pounds you've lost or how many pounds you've gained. You can write stuff down. There's apps you can use on your phone that will help to keep you abreast as to what's going on. People have their iWatches and everything like that, and they count their steps. Little things like that are going to be able to tell you whether you're going in the direction that you want of weight loss or weight gain, or if you need to make changes. Sometimes you could have done all the work that you were accustomed to doing, but you only lost a pound. Is it because you gained lean muscle? And so that's why you didn't lose the weight? Is it because you fell off the wagon? Nothing wrong. You should always find a way to track your progress. So those are the 4 keys. I'm not going to keep you too long. Those are the 4 keys, aside from the science, in order for you to become successful at either weight loss or weight gain. All right? Motivation, sacrifice, accountability, progress. Those are the 4 that you're going to need. And that will help to propel you to either gain weight or to lose weight. And those are the things that you're going to need. All right? So hopefully take care of yourself. Once again, be safe out there. And I'll talk to you next time. Bye.
That was only episode 1 of 8. So it got a little out of control there in terms of picks. But I'm looking forward to producing the rest of them and seeing what my other panels have in store. Each episode will have a different panel, so you may see some of the similar faces. You may not. You may see one person on an episode. You may not see them on the other, just to give a different dynamic, because everyone has a different opinion. Everyone has a different take of how they construct their Mount Rushmores. So you will see that along the series. And also, you just saw a commercial or a quick tips, not a commercial, but a quick tips from Jay Lex, Fitness with Jay Lex. Jay Lex, shout out to him. He's been producing content, just to keep people in shape. During these times of COVID-19 and not having gyms and people staying active, Jay Lex has a lot of different tips that can help people from home to stay active, to lose weight, to gain weight. So that was just a little quick tips and keys of how you can do those things from Jay Lex. So thank you, Jay Lex, for that quick video. Up next, we have a special interview with Athletic Director of University of New Orleans, Mr. Tim Duncan, not the basketball player, but the athletic director, Tim Duncan. Since the murder of George Floyd in Minnesota, we've seen a lot of protests and vocal about Black Lives Matter and what goes on in this country. Tim Duncan experienced something days right before George Floyd's murder, and he had the time to come on to the Sports Hit List and talk about it. So let's listen in on that interview.
For the fans, I have a very special guest with me, the University of New Orleans athletic director, Mr. Tim Duncan. Tim, how you doing, man? Thanks for joining me on this special podcast.
I'm great, Carl. How about you, man? Thanks.
I'm hanging in there. Do people confuse you a lot with the basketball player Tim Duncan? Do you get that a lot?
Yeah, they do. And I'm the original Tim Duncan because I'm a little bit older, and I like to say the young fella's done pretty well to my name. So let him help brand me.
I hear that. I'd also like to throw out a special shout out to Megan O'Brien. Megan, for making the connection. Right. She sent me your video. I had the privilege and honor of working with Megan at St. Francis College, where back in 2008 when I was a student, and she was working in the athletic department. So she's really cool friends. And as soon as she sent me the video, she said, just contact him and we could definitely get an interview. So thank you to her.
Yeah, absolutely. Megan's awesome. So thanks. I'm glad she made the connection.
Yeah. So she sent me a video saying prior to George Floyd's murder, you had experienced something 5 days prior. Can you tell us a little bit about what happened to you?
Yeah, so I've been at the University of New Orleans for a year, but my family stayed in the Boston area because I had a job there previously at Northeastern. And our son was a senior in high school. He's a 2020 graduate from Newton North High School in Newton, Massachusetts, is a suburb of Boston. So I was up there a couple of weeks ago to pack the house and move them down because they're going to do a virtual graduation, and school for all intents and purposes was done. So I was up there to move them, and my wife and I were taking a break one afternoon and decided to walk to Whole Foods. So that tells you the type of neighborhood it is, a nice suburban neighborhood, great schools with the Whole Foods that was in walking distance. Whole Foods and a Trader Joe's, actually, within walking distance of my home. So we started on our walk, and a block over from my house, we were surrounded. 4 cars came up pretty aggressively and seemed like a coordinated attempt. And one of the officers jumped out with a gun, pointed toward me directly and asked me to put my hands on my head and barked orders and asked, did I have a gun? Where did I live? What was I doing in the neighborhood? And they asked me to reach for my ID, and I declined to reach for it and nodded toward the officer closest to me and say, can he get it out? Because that's one of the things, as at least my parents had talks with me when I was a kid and growing up, to not make any sudden movements or reach in your pockets, around over-aggressive cops. So they reached in, they verified who I was and gave my wallet back. They apologized, and then and they said, well, we're looking for a murder suspect. And I was like, is he a 6'8" black man? I'm, 6'8", obviously.
Yeah.
And they said, well, no, but they did describe him as tall. And that was it. And then they left, and my wife and I continued to walk to the store. We got our items, came back, talked to the kids. She was really adamant about telling the kids that she thought it was such a good idea by me not to reach in my pocket after they told me to get the ID, after they had told me not to move and put my head. So I did that. So we talked to them, made sure that they understood, had that talk again with them. And then 5 days later, George Floyd was killed. And of course, like many people, I was outraged at watching, a murder real time on television. And then, but I still didn't correlate my incident with his until one of my friends who I had mentioned it to said, Tim, that could have been you. And then that's when I started to ask the question, why am I normalizing this process? Why okay for, and that's not the first time that, officers have pulled a gun on me unnecessarily. The other one was doing traffic stops. But why am I normalizing a situation that's not normal? Why am I okay with this and justifying it when it's not cool? Excuse me. I understand I have a job to do, and they have to do their job. They were looking for a murder suspect. Absolutely. But is there any other way that they could have gotten to the bottom of the of this person walking down the street with his wife in broad daylight? Could they have used any other methods to find out whether or not I was that person or not? And I think that, obviously are ways to do that. And so I wanted to utilize this as learning a point of education for our student athletes. And so we had conversations with our student athletes over the weekend. And prior to me releasing it, I told them about the experience, wanted to get their feedback. They were very appreciative of me sharing it with them. And then I posted it, and from there, it has, taken a life of its own, which, is a little bit overwhelming, but, to have to talk about that over and over. But how I look at it, if it helps educate some or help other folks identify with me and say, well, yeah, I went through that too, Tim, I get it. Then I think it was worth it in the end.
I'm sorry you and your wife had to experience that. It's really tragic to hear that happened.
Thank you.
Are you in the process, or did you think about taking any action towards that police department for what happened to you, or?
No, not at all, man. That never even came up. There wasn't a thought in my mind. It wasn't a thought in my mind initially, and then it hadn't been a thought in my mind. And then I've received calls from the mayor of Newton, the chief of police, and they have a civil rights officer in the Newton department. And they all apologized profusely. And the chief of police said something when he said that, I need to self-reflect to see what we can do better in those situations. He said, thinking back, I could have called you, that day or later in that week and, talked about it. And, maybe there are some different ways we can, try to find murder. So I appreciate the fact that he was self-reflective in our conversation. And I wasn't, and part of that, I'm sure, is, they don't want me to file a complaint, but I didn't have any intentions on doing that anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Appreciate the effort of calling to make sure that we're okay. In the town of Newton is such a bedroom community that my son's high school principal called me, my son and daughter's middle school principal called my wife, neighbors called, her boss called her that when she worked there. So people were really concerned because that area is pretty liberal.
Mm-hmm.
And
is that near Waltham by any chance?
It is near Waltham. It's a little bit, it's east of Waltham, closer to downtown, but it's close to Brookline, close to Chestnut Hill, where Boston College is.
Yeah.
It's not far at all.
Yeah, so I'm a Celtics fan, so and I have family who lives in Waltham, so I'm always like every year I take a trip down there. My godson's down there, so I'm always in that area.
I'm sure you've driven through Newton to get to Waltham before.
Yeah. So right now in my school, I'm working with the multicultural activities director to try to figure out what steps should we take moving forward, because I deal with students too, just like you do. What are the steps that your University of New Orleans is taking after this? And have there been protests on campus? I know right now we're still dealing with COVID-19 and possibly some social distancing, but what are the steps that the university is taking in terms of course of action after the death of Mr. Floyd?
Yeah, well, we're not open. So our president made he gave a statement, and I hope you don't mind me saying this, but
that's fine, man. Go ahead.
He texted me and said, man, Tim, I'm tired of this racist bullshit. And I believe him. That's just the type of good man that he is. So what we're going to do is we're going to work with our faculty. We have a new student athlete class that all the freshmen and transfers take. Mm-hmm. So we're going to work with the provost to have one of their faculty members come and teach a couple of classes on race and politics. Talk about that intersection. I think we're going to try to elevate social justice as one of our core tenets. And then what I'd like to do, and what I talk to the students about, is how can we mobilize to help people vote? Because all politics are local, basically. And the district's attorneys are the ones who refuse to press charges. And yeah, they press charges after 4 days for Derek Chauvin and after 9 days on the other 3 officers. But why did it take so long?
Right.
If you or I did something that is suspected to be a crime, we're going to go to jail first. Then they're going to figure out if they have enough evidence to charge us once we're in jail. But with officers who we have video evidence, they take their sweet time, and that's not cool. And we need to hold them accountable. So I think we're going to work with our student athletes. There's a national organization called RISE that helps with voter turnouts and voter registration. So I think that might be a way that we go as well. And of course, we'll have additional speakers, and we're we will figure out a couple of other ways to make an impact. I know that's one, particularly in our city of New Orleans, that we can make an impact by getting people out to vote. Because most folks, particularly I won't say one group or other, but there are a lot of folks who really only pay attention to elections during the national elections.
Absolutely, yeah.
Important, for sure. That's absolutely important. However, local elections are very important, and that's where the rubber meets the road. And I think that's where we need to make sure that we, spend some time.
Do you have any word for the fall? I know with my school right now, we're waiting on Governor Cuomo to make a call whether we're going back full time in the fall. I know you have about 14 sports, right? So has there been any discussions about what's going to happen, or is it touch and go to see what's going on with new social distancing rule? Are you guys going to play with empty stadiums? How is that affecting the everyday life of if you guys could even get back in time to start this program?
Yeah, well, our state is opening up slowly. We're in phase 1 now. We're supposed to enter phase 2 this week. New Orleans is a little bit less, it's more conservative, I'll put it that way, than our state because of, we're the largest metropolitan area in the state. Mm-hmm. But we are planning to be in school on time. We're going to bring our we don't have football, but we're going to bring our men's and women's basketball student athletes back July 6th. And then we're going to test them and isolate them for a week before allow them to start workouts with their team. The NCAA allows Division I men's and women's basketball to have coach-led workouts in the summer. So before we can do that, we'll test them, quarantine them, and do all of that. But we're expected to have school starts on August 18th, and right now we're working toward that'll be what happens, and we'll test all of our student athletes during their physicals. We have to give them physicals every year anyway. Our team doctors are a part of a hospital system here, Ochsner, that is a monster. It's a giant. So they have resources that can help us test our student athletes. If they test positive, we'll quarantine them. We've already worked the housing. They have a process to quarantine student athletes, just any student, if they are tested positive. We'll start off our season social distancing fans.
Just limiting fans, maybe no fans at all until everything.
We'll have fans, but our places are big enough that I think we can spread them out accordingly. For example, we play in a 10,000 seat arena and we don't average that. So we'll have a chance to spread that out for basketball and for baseball. So I think that we can get by with still having fans and spread them out accordingly and have them socially distanced. And I'm not sure if we'll require masks, but that's something that we'll talk about as well. We've already started talking about whether we will require them at all.
So yesterday I did a show on Drew Brees and his comments, and it just so happens I'm about to interview the athletic director for New Orleans, the University of New Orleans, and Drew Brees makes his comments. So I literally said to my friends, I'm like, I have to ask him this question. How were his comments received from that community? Have you spoke to anyone about his comments this morning? This morning he made an apology. So what's your take on Drew Brees over the last 2 days and what he said and what he apologized for and how it's going to be received in the community of New Orleans?
Well, first, let's talk about how much of an icon he is here in this city. People loved him. He helped. He was the face of the city post-Katrina when it was emotional, when they came back and they beat the Falcons on that Monday Night Football. He led them to a Super Bowl, their only Super Bowl in the city's history that had been perennial losers for the most part, but outside a few years of success. So, I mean, they revered Drew Brees here, no matter the race. They loved him dearly. So to hear them say that affected a lot of people negatively, for sure. And they had protests last night, and a large part of the protest was F. Drew Brees, F. Drew Brees. They chanted over and over and over. And for him to fall so far so quickly is amazing. But I think that at the very least, he was tone deaf to what was happening in the country. That's his right to think what he wants to think about the flag. This is not the time to talk about. And particularly because Yahoo Finance, which is interesting that they are the ones who got this quote, they asked him a question. I don't remember the exact question, but it was something like, so tell me what you think about what's going on in the country.
Yeah, I think the question was more so about Because of what's going on, do you believe players will take a knee when the season starts? So yeah, something along those lines. Yeah.
So it wasn't. They led him down the path, but he's been through media training. I've been media training. You have to stick to your agenda. So I think that he wanted to say what he wanted to say, and it was tone deaf because it's clearly not the time to talk about that. It's already been established that Colin Kaepernick spoke to a veteran, and the veteran said, instead of sitting, why don't you kneel? That's what we do, and that's a sign of respect. And he said that time and time again, and he said time and time again, his protest was not about the flag. It was about social justice and the mistreatment and the killing of unarmed Black people. So he may have those feelings about his grandfathers who fought in World War II, I assume World War II, but my father was a Vietnam vet, and he didn't get a hero's welcome. And then the African-American men who served in World War II as well had to come back to Jim Crow. So the fact that in his mind that's disrespecting the flag, he can have that thought if he wants. But the time to talk about it is not now, when Malcolm Jenkins said, well, America is burning.
Yeah.
Literally in pain. There are people who are so fed up with this, and there are people who look like our entire country. The protests this time seem to be a lot more diverse than any of the ones that I've seen since Dr. King. Mm-hmm. To ignore the pain that people are going through to have that conversation is clearly tone deaf. His apology was fantastic. He hit every note that you want to hit in an apology. It was sincere. He took accountability for his actions. He didn't put any solutions in there, but he did talk about, this is my fault. I want to stand with Black people and be a leader of Asia. It hit all the right notes, but there will be some people who will never forgive him.
That was going to lead to my next question is going into the season, and we like to believe the NFL will be back. Do they forget about it in New Orleans, or do they kind of forgive and not forget? Like how will he be received? Is he sinking? Is he swimming? Post his comments now.
I think there will be a segment of population who will never forgive him. I think people likely will, because they're going to have a great season, I'm sure. I think if he wins a Super Bowl and on stage when accepting the MVP trophy or the Super Bowl trophy, he says, let me apologize again to my city. I said some stupid stuff. Here's what I'm going to do. If he does that, he's going to be loved forever. When he gets a chance to publicly say, if he has to, his actions now have to match his apology. So if he gets involved in legislation, if he gets involved in organizations to help help us overcome the killing of unarmed Black men, and he's sincere and does that, then I think he'll win a whole bunch of people back for sure. Want to love him. They love these Saints down here. I've never seen it. I've lived in a lot of different cities. Yeah. Huge Steelers fan myself. I grew up not in Pittsburgh, but I just grew up a Steelers fan, and I'm part too. But this whole city is in mourning when the Saints lose. That's how it is. Yeah. So they want to love him. Yeah. He has to earn that love back.
Well, that must be tough for you. You grew up in Massachusetts, right?
No, I grew up in Memphis.
Memphis, okay.
Born and raised in Memphis, Tennessee, and back in the 70s, the only teams that came on in Memphis were Pittsburgh and Dallas, and my dad and I definitely was not going to root for them. Grew up a Lynn Swann fan, and I've been a Steeler fan since I was 8 years old. So I grew up in Memphis. I played basketball in Memphis, and then since then I've lived in a lot of different places. I lived in Massachusetts the last 2 years prior to moving here. But so I'm a Steelers fan. It was tough living in Massachusetts as a Steelers fan, but I can
the Patriots, yeah.
I can pridefully say I did not watch one play the entire year. So I am very happy about
that. So to kind of end off, I feel like it's time that we should end off on a light note. With everything going on, we've dealt with COVID the last 3 months, now dealing with the death of George Floyd. Now it's possible that sports are coming back. From your perspective, how much were you missing sports, and now that you're in the process of planning for it to come back, sports in your life as an athletic director, as a fan of the game, of any kind of game, how excited are you to try to get the process of sports to return to television, or just sports to return in general?
I'm really excited, man, because it's a unifying thing that it allow Black, white, Asian, Hispanic, whatever, to have some common interests. and calming rooting or calming trash talk if you're on a different opponent. It's an awesome unifying thing, man, that I can't wait to get back. I think that's why the Jordan ratings, The Last Dance, was so high, because we
absolutely
for anything. It was appointment television for my entire family. I mean, from my 12-year-old daughter to both of my sons to my wife. Every Sunday night we're watching.
Me too. We did a review for it every single show for the podcast. Every single show we did a review for it. Yeah,
that's how much we were craving for, just sports content, and that was perfect timing for them. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm ready to get things back to somewhat normal. It won't ever be the same. I think there are will be some people who will always be leery about coming in public, and there will be some people that will always wear masks, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm ready for our student athletes to, first of all, check out and be healthy and be able to compete and stay healthy. That is the most important thing.
Any final thoughts to the community? Anything else you'd like to say?
I would just challenge everyone to don't shy away from some of these difficult conversations. I think that's the only way that we can start to put some sunlight on, some of the things that some people choose not to see about our society. We have a great country, but our country has some work to do to make it great for all of us. And it's difficult conversations, education, and voting are the key to make sure that we can impact change.
Well, I'm going to tell you this. Personally, New Orleans is at the top of my wife and I's list in terms of travel places. We haven't been to California yet.
Yeah.
I want to visit every state before I die, so I'm clearing the bucket list. Now I have a contact in New Orleans. I hope to attend a game, something, just to come down and say hi.
Man, come to New Orleans. The food is awesome. It's great when you can take a cold beverage, whatever it is, and walk up.
Yeah.
Not just Bourbon Street, but any street in the city.
I hear that.
Walk around with the cold beverage on a hot day. That's a beautiful thing. So come on down. We'll grab some great food. We can I can take you to some of the local spots, and we can have a great time. Absolutely.
And if you have any athletes who want to come on to our show, please let us know. I'm all for interviewing athletes. I'm all about it.
Well,
I produce. I'm currently at Iona right now doing my second master's studying in sports communication.
Awesome.
So anything in sports, I've never played because I was never athletic enough to play. But in terms of covering sports and media, writing articles, doing videos, that's all I'm about. So if you have any athlete you want us to talk to, I'd love to connect with you some more.
Well, thank you, Carl. I appreciate that, man. Thanks.
No problem.
And having me a part of your show. I definitely appreciate it.
Thank you to Tim Duncan for taking his time to come onto the show and talk about what happened to him, to also talk about the death of George Floyd, and talk about what we can do to change the narrative and helping America move forward. The Sports Hit List is a place where I give people the opportunity to speak their mind and their opinions, and we don't shy away from politics and sports. Social issues in sports go hand in hand, and we've seen a lot of athletes be be very, very vocal about change in America, change in this country. So as a brand, I take full responsibility, and I respect any of my contributors who have something to share when it comes to sports and politics. Some people may feel that there's no place for sports, there's no place for politics in sports, but the athletes cover it, the athletes talk about it, the athletes are all about social activism. We should be as well as a media brand. And our last segment today is Wrestling Wednesday. I am a big WWE fan. I'm a big pro wrestling fan, mostly WWE. I'm not going to lie. There are other pro wrestling companies out there, but I grew up watching the WWE. I've been watching it since I was 6 years old, and I'm not going to drop it. It's one of my favorite sports, quote unquote, because it's sports entertainment. It's not really sports, but I love it. So we've designed here at the Sports Hit List what we call Wrestling Wednesday, where we promote nothing but pro wrestling on that day. We have on our Instagram Wrestler of the Day. We cut promos. I am the chosen one. I've been chosen by God to lead all to prosperity. That's my character. We have a lot of characters on the Sports Hit List, pro wrestling contributors. You can go check out that on our page. But here for the Worldwide Sports Network on Wednesday, you will get a wrestling segment. So for today's listening pleasure and viewing, we have what we call the Greatest Intercontinental Champion of All Time segment, where each of our panel decided that they were going to pick who is their greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time. Given the fact that WWE decided that they were going to have a tournament to crown a new champion, shout out to AJ Styles for winning the championship, we thought on our brand side we would do something where we have a tournament, not a tournament, but each of us pick who is our greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time. So take a look. So, Tom, I'm going to give you the floor first since this is your segment, this is your idea. who is your greatest Intercontinental champion of all time?
See, now we've had great Intercontinental champions. We've had everyone from Honky Tonk Man to Pedro Morales to Don Morocco, Mr. Perfect. We have all these guys in the past. But my guy, the greatest of all time, in my opinion, is someone that's wrestling right now. And it's someone who won his first Intercontinental title at a big show at Raw 1000. He won his first Intercontinental title off a Christian, and that's The Miz.
Awesome! I came to play. There's a price to pay.
The Miz is the greatest Intercontinental champion. He is number 2 in both the amount of days he's held the Intercontinental Championship, which is just below 600. Pedro Morales is number 1, and he's at 8 reigns, which is just below Chris Jericho, who's had 9. But he's still got time left in the tank for WWE. I think he will be, at the end of his career, number 1. But even regardless with that, you look at the matches and what Miz did for the Intercontinental title. The Miz had great matches. The Miz, even just looking at 2016, he had one of the best programs you'll ever see of both men's career with Dolph Ziggler, where they had the Intercontinental title versus career match. I believe that was at Backlash 2016. And Dolph Ziggler won it and won it off The Miz. But that really, really, really was pretty much almost a 5-star match. And you look at other things The Miz has done for the Intercontinental title. He had that Talking Smack promo about Daniel Bryan, where he got mad. He was the Intercontinental title champion at that time. And that's a historic, one of the better promos of the 2010s. That's probably one of the best of the 2010s if you really look at all the promos and the intensity he brought to that promo. But he also elevated the Intercontinental title. If you look at 2018, when he won it at Raw 25. So we're looking at The Miz here. He's won at Raw 1000. He's run at SmackDown 900, which was in 2016. He won that title back off Dolph Ziggler. And then he won at Raw 25. And who did he beat at Raw 25? He beat Roman Reigns. As clean as you could beat Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns went for the spear, bounced off the turnbuckle. Miz hit him with the skull-crushing finale. Miz is the champion. So Miz beat the top guy for the Intercontinental Championship in 2018 at Raw 25, at the biggest Raw that year. Miz went on that 2018 to make that title so hot that he dropped it in the triple threat match to Seth Rollins and Finn Balor at WrestleMania 34, which was the best match of that card. And Seth Rollins, because The Miz spent all of 2016, 2017, 2018 making the Intercontinental title the most prestigious title in the WWE.
How can you dispute what Tom Kenny just said in that opening monologue? It's like he had it rehearsed, ready to go. Like he knew what he wanted.
I do my homework, Carl. I remember someone telling me proper preparation prevents poor performance. And
that's facts. Listen, there's a lot of people.
You got to live by that motto.
Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today. If you'd like to continue watching the Wrestling Wednesday segment on Intercontinental Champions, please log on to our YouTube channel. You could also check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Thank you for watching the Sports Hit List by the fans and for the fans. Again, I am Carl Coulanges. I look forward to working with the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. So check us out on Wednesdays right here. Have a good day.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.